And then listen to this. I was pregnant with my first daughter, so I thought, okay, I'll take the meeting. But H&M had been on everyone's radar because a couple of months or less than a year before it was in the hot water. I cringed a little bit. I mean, I think that Matkosa is doing really, really good.
Yeah.
Before it was like do I have to stay up to work? Whereas after school it was like, okay, if I don't stay up, then we don't have work.
Hello and welcome to Shades and Layers. I'm your host, Kutlwanus Kosana Richie. And this is the first part of a two-part conversation. My guest is renowned South African fashion designer Palesa Mokubung, founder of the brand Mantsho, which she started 20 years ago. Yes, 20 years in business, so that officially makes her a legend. Her journey to this milestone includes establishing a solid business, winning several industry awards, and some high-profile South African collaborations, and most notably, her international collaboration with the Swedish fast fashion brand H&M. Unfortunately, soon after that collaboration, 2020 happened and slowed down her international expansion plans. But now with things almost back to normal and on Mantsho's 20th year in business, we take a look back at where she came from and the next steps she will be taking to spread her wings further. But first, let's find out what being 20 years in business means to Palesa Mokubung.
Late last year that I'd been in the 20-year mark, right? Didn't cross my mind because I had another baby when the company was turning 20. I was very pregnant with my second baby, with my daughter. So I had all the pregnancy brain, if you want to call it. I was very happy with not remembering the 20-year mark, because then it meant I didn't have to make a big deal out of it. But everyone else in my life and people who've supported me and been part of my journey were very excited about it. And I didn't have time to really kind of figure out how I got there.
Right.
In simple terms, just in my own, like, what were the 3 steps? Bam, bam, bam. How did I get there? What does the 20-year mark consist of? And I realized that it was quite fractured. In that I worked after I left Stone Cherry, and I was at Stone Cherry for I think 3 years. And when I was at Stone Cherry, I had 1 year of education in the fashion field. And I started working and interning and working really hard and making my mark and creating my place in the industry for that 3 years. After I left Stone Cherry, I didn't take a break. I won a competition and I traveled a little bit. And then I started my brand and I worked on it for about 7 years. So when the 7 years that I worked on my own after Stone Cherry were without a qualification.
Right.
So the first 7 years of the brand, I was an unqualified designer. In fact, I was a dropout, but I did the best that I could, and I reached many, many heights, and I accomplished many, many things. I showcased all over the world. I created such a strong signature and a very clear voice in the fashion industry, and I carved out a woman for myself, right? And a market for myself.
Yeah.
But then I reached the ceiling after 7 years, because that happens when you have limited
knowledge,
formal education in this technical field. So I went to get my BA degree in fashion design.
Right.
And I did.
Where did you study? Did you stay in Joburg or did you travel abroad?
No, I studied in Joburg. I studied at Design School of SA, which is now Vega.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I took a break and I studied full time. And I was not that young anymore. I mean, I think I just turned 30. So I was studying with 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds. And I had a brand. I was so competitive, and it was just like, it's just something that I needed to do. I felt like I owed myself at least that much, and also owed my field, because I could tell that this is what I want to do for the long haul. And I didn't want to give myself any I wanted to feel worthy. I wanted to feel worthy of it. I wanted to feel worthy of it, because I knew that it was going to be a long
this was going to be your life's work, kind of.
It was going to be my life's work. So I studied for 3 years. I finished in 2014, and then I started working again. So what you're seeing is like 9-10 years worth of a business that was built again from scratch.
Right. Wow. So what was the difference between the before and after?
Oh my God, everything. Oh my God, the level of focus. Can we talk about just the level of focus?
Yeah.
The level of focus, having a point of reference, knowing that you will spend some nights, up because you're working, not because before it was like do I have to stay up to work? Whereas after school, it was like, okay, if I don't stay up, then we don't have work, then we're not working. So the level of commitment, the level of respect that I had for my field, the level of understanding, and I knew technical things. I mean, there were subjects that I did not know that I was passionate about. I started paying more focus into my fabrics. That's when I started going into my own textiles,
Right.
thereafter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Creating that kind of communication between my clients and I, and being able to translate that alone was a milestone. And then having had the time to carve out a vision that is based on research. In school,
Right.
you learn about you're forced to learn about the top 10 designers in the world and how they got there. Fashion history
Yeah.
was so important. And before I would read an article or two, but that was all the history I had. I
Right.
was not really pinned down to learn and be, just knowledgeable about my industry. And yeah, I did not know how big the industry was. I think
Yeah.
so.
It's quite a
I think I did
discipline,
not know
isn't
how
it?
big it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, while you're studying all these top designers, who stands out to you? Who do you want to model yourself after?
Oh, something very traumatic happened when I was studying. That's when uh, Alexandra McQueen passed away. So
Oh, yeah.
that was definitely something that stood out for me. I had to really, dive into that world, into his world. So I think that I realized how intense the industry can make a person, and but also how much choice we have in allowing that to happen. I think that McQueen enjoyed being intense. Whereas, so from that, I learned to kind of find the balance. I said, okay, I love what I do, but I also love myself. And if I can find the balance between creating a healthy life for myself and a healthy business life that can help myself and other people, then I want to do that. So I was inspired not to be like anybody, but more to be like myself, more like myself. Yeah.
So how do you describe your brand, Mantsho?
Oh my goodness, it's grown so much. I mean, 20 years, it's a long time to be building something. And other times it's at the tip of your tongue, and other times it's at the top of your head, and other times it lives in your heart, and other times. So I think I've described it in so many different ways. And I think that's fine, at different phases of my life.
Yeah.
But how I would describe it now, or describe the woman, at least, she is a global woman. She's a global woman who has built herself from scratch. She's really built herself, piece by piece. She is a wholesome woman who is interested in the community that she comes from. She's a giver. She is very driven, but she is very humble and really, really remembers where she comes from. She values her culture, her traditions. She's authentic. She's authentic. A global and authentic woman.
Yeah.
That is something that you have to work for. It's something that you build. It's like she's a project. She's her own project. That's who she is. She's her number one project.
Right. So how do you reflect this in, let's say, the style of clothes? How is it captured?
Now we are very bold people. Us. We're very loud. I mean, you might find, and sometimes loud is not in how we dress. Sometimes it's just in our personality and just in our character as Africans. And these are like qualities that I would see from like a woman that I admire from down the road, who wears the best jackets with like a shweshwe skirt. And she doesn't have a very fancy job, but she's able to, put the two together. And from the village, Nakhon,
Yeah.
I reflect that by, first of all, our just culture through the colors that we use.
Yep.
Because when I think about, as South Africans, I think of a diverse, right, a very, very diverse nation. So I think a lot of color. And I'm not very shy to draw from. If I think of a red, it's a Zulu blood red.
Yeah.
If I think of a royal blue, it's like Amapostola royal blue. And that's the color. That's the Mantsho royal blue. So when I go to print, that's the blueprint. If we're looking for a blue, we're not gonna see which blue is trending now. No, we go to the royal blue, the one that runs through the Mantsho blood. That's the one. So it is about finding meaning. I reflected by finding meaning in the colors that we exude ever so gracefully and wear ever so gracefully as Africans, as South Africans. I express that through just our love for layering. If you think of a Sotho woman, she will wear everything. She will wear her shweshwe, the first layer, and then she will wear the apron, and then she will wear the blanket on the shoulder, and then she will wear the head wrap, and then she will wear a hat over the head wrap. And then, like, if we do accessories, we don't do one little bracelet, we pack it.
Oh gosh, yeah.
We pack it up. Like if you think of a Xhosa attire, it's layers upon layers upon layers. The way that I dress, period, is like it's layered like that, and that's how I reference just who we are. We love to, in fact, all cultures, if I think about it in South Africa, we love to throw things over our shoulders. Maybe that is why I have a long line of collars that you can just throw over your shoulder. It's a sign of respect for yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is a sign of just giving yourself, the epaulette.
Yeah.
It's a sign of pride.
Yeah.
So it's those little, nuances that I take from different cultures that I incorporate in my designs.
Yeah. Hey, it's Shades and Layers, and I'm speaking to South African fashion designer Palesa Mokubung about her brand Mantsho. She attributes her success to being ready for any eventuality, positive or negative, and she believes that this is what made her collaboration with the global fast fashion brand H&M a success. Let's find out how that collaboration came about and how everything unfolded.
H&M came after I'd been in the industry for about 15 years. So I'd had my head down for quite a while. First as an untrained designer, and then a qualified, designer, and then a designer who is now all about her business and is building, from dress to dress now. And I think they came in about 5 years after I had gotten my qualification and created this new business. I mean, I looked at my business as a new business after.
Right.
It felt like a new business. I spoke a different language. I presented it better. I actually packaged my business. Whereas before it was just something that I loved, that I was just doing. But I had started packaging my business. So I think that what H&M was looking for was the full package.
Right.
They were looking for someone. Yeah, they were looking for the full package. And I presented that because I had the focus to package my business, and I did it at the right time. But how it came about is that I mean, they reached out to me on Instagram. Hey, believe it or not.
Oh, Insta.
It's not fancy. I mean, it's really not fancy. It's so not fancy. But I think it was a WhatsApp, actually, Gutlan. I think it was a WhatsApp. Someone sent me just a odd WhatsApp. Hey, do you want to? I work at H&M. I'll be in Joburg next week. Can we have a meeting about a possible? I promise you. And then listen to this. I was pregnant with my first daughter, so I thought, okay, I'll take the meeting. But H&M had been on everyone's radar because a couple of months or less than a year before, it was in the hot water.
Oh, yes.
There was a controversy around it. So I thought, H&M. I cringed a little bit to even just take a meeting with H&M because I know how I felt. About
it was the ad,
about
yeah,
that.
the ad
but
with
I thought,
the black kid, yeah.
But I was like, okay, it's just a meeting. And then I went And they, I met someone from the local team, and they expressed a possible collaboration. I had no idea what that looked like. I didn't even know that they were doing those collaborations. I learned then that they had been having collaborations that were very popular. It was very short-lived. It's very like punchy collaborate, like 3 months.
Yeah, and they sell
A
out
collaboration,
immediately.
very limited stock. Yeah, and they sell out and then they move on. So I took the meeting and I didn't think much of it, and there were follow-up calls. The global team came to South Africa. Still did not think much of it. But what I loved about it is that I was ready for it. So anything that they asked for, and they asked for everything. They asked for, financials for the last, 3 years, 5 years. They asked for everything they wanted. I had at a press of a button, literally at a press of a button. And I did not know. I've always known that obviously I'm special, and I'm gonna have a moment. I did not know when that moment would be. And after 15 years, you begin to think, is it gonna happen ever? But by a moment though, Kutlwana, I mean like a moment where you have not for popularity, but to stand for something, to have an opportunity to change people's minds about something, to have an opportunity to show them a new way, of thinking. And I think that's what the collaboration did for me, is that because it came after such a controversy, I could actually stand up and be like, listen, if I didn't do this collaboration, someone else would have. That's the first thing. But I'm glad that it's me, because someone has to stand up and say, okay, so that has happened. How do we move forward? How do we move forward? What did we want before this? Can we go back to now, those conversations? It doesn't have to stop here. And it's a big moment, for the continent. That's what I found when the news broke out, is that I thought my people would be happy for me, but I realized that the whole world, the very same world that was upset, the entire world that was upset, the entire world was now so happy that this was happening. And I think that it just symbolized just something so incredibly good. It symbolized second chances, first of all, deserved or not, but it symbolized them. I loved being a part of that conversation. That's one.
Yeah.
I also loved the fact that they chose me. I had often felt like a underground sort of, design, an underdog, rather.
Right,
That's the term.
right.
I had felt like an underdog. And I loved that they did not go for someone who was already well known, right? They went for someone who was deserving. And they did the research, because I was deserving. I was the girl who started with Stone Cherry. I was the girl who had lost everything so they could just start making one dress again. And they sat down with me to hear and learn about those stories. But they knew so much about me when they came to me. It was very genuine. Obviously, this is not something that people knew, but it is not a relationship also that I would have gotten into if it was not a good relationship.
Yeah. So there was something authentic about that interaction.
They were so sensitive. I was pregnant also, you must remember, with my first baby, and I'm 38 years old. So I could have given up anything just to have my baby. So the fact that I could, that I wanted that more than I wanted a break.
Right.
But they came at the same time. So
the timing,
to have a company that, and it's not just them. I think it's a Sweden thing. It's a Swedish company, and I think it's a Sweden thing that they are so caring when it comes to, and so kind when it comes to women, and
that's my
women having.
It's definitely my experience.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I had both my children in Denmark, so yeah.
Oh, incredible. I did not know that, but it is exactly what I needed. So there were so many things for me that were aligned, and it was supposed to be a difficult time because I was basically birthing 2 kids.
Yep.
My company was birthing the biggest break, and I was having my first baby. And it was such a smooth process. And I think it's because the timing was perfect. I love that they had like such strict sustainability laws. There was just so many things that were aligned. Like it was just one of those partnerships relationships that were really, really, really written in the stars.
Yeah, everything came together at the right time. Well, that's
Yeah,
nice. That's
yeah.
nice. Yeah. But let's look at other milestones that you've had during this journey into the fashion business. Are there any, maybe two more that stand out that have made this journey worthwhile?
Oh my goodness! I think I've had. I mean, I'm standing in my office and I'm looking at how many? 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm looking at 10 fashion awards. Okay,
Wonderful.
so
Yeah.
I have a few, right? And I'm just trying to see which one kind of stands out for me. I mean, it's anything from actually. I mean, these awards are just now just standing in my office. But if I have to think about them, I guess they meant something to someone at some point. For me, some of the achievements that I'm very proud of are not even here. I can't even. They're not represented with they don't have a shining mark at top of a shelf. There are some cool projects that we've done that have meant a lot to me that are not, largely talked about.
Yeah.
I mean, I did a wardrobe for Coming to America that was really good. I did.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
big,
really
actually.
cool for
That's
me.
quite
It
good.
was cool for me because
Yeah.
it was like a little childhood dream, coming through. So it's something that tickled me. Not really, didn't really do much for the world, didn't really, but it tickled me. I mean, I would have to ask my team. There's so many things that I do. Let me just say this because I'm so passionate about what I do. For me, if we make a jacket and it's a success, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a winner. But things that I guess could mean something to the world is that I've been on the Forbes stage. I've been on the Forbes stage, Forbes Women conference stage. I think that I do a lot of work with interns. I love that. Again,
Nice.
not popular info, but I work with the school here and I've been taking interns for the last maybe 5 years. I take 2 to 3 interns a year. I train them and then I take new ones and I love it. It's done so much for so many young people. Something that's very close to my heart. That I would have to send them to you. I mean, I can't think of. I do
No
a lot of
problem.
cool
Yeah,
things.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I travel the world. I showcase my clothes, but there's nothing glamorous about it.
Sure.
Maybe I'm glamorous when I'm doing it, but it's real work.
Yeah.
It's like it's me trying to maybe I'm glamorous when I'm doing it, but it is not. It's not glamorous at all. It's me really, really trying to build a company that can feed families, and that's what I'm very, very proud of.
Yeah.
Having been able to sustain my business for so long, having workers that have been with me for 12 years, it's little things. That's why I'm like, it's not what you think. I know you want me to say,
No.
I don't know.
I mean,
But it's
whatever
not
it
that.
means to you, actually, I am more aiming for the things that are meaningful to you.
It's things that mean something to me. Showcasing all over the world is wonderful, but it's a lot of work. I'm about to do something that I'm going to be very, very proud of, though. I'll tell you that much because it's a dream. I'm doing a trade show in Paris.
Wonderful.
And it's something I've always wanted to do, just because it is important to open ourselves up to the global market. I did H&M in 2019, and I was really looking forward to doing a global tour to all the top markets, that the collection
had reached here.
Was at. It reached years, and I was not able to. Everything shut down. 2020 was everything shut down. 2021. So I feel like no, it's just something that I wanted to do, and I kind of put that on the back seat a little bit, and allowed the world to do the change that it needed to change, because the world has changed. It's not what it was 2019
Absolutely.
or 2018 or last year.
Yeah.
It's changed so much, and I've just been watching and learning new trades, and I'm ready to start attending and kind of reaching out to the world in a way that is current. Doing business in a current way. So I'm doing my first trade show in next week in Paris, and then I've got another one later in the month, and I'm hoping for more. But it's all about the global market.
Sure.
It's all about it's all about globalizing the brand.
Yeah, which brings me to the idea of making it on a global stage for an African designer. I mean, we've seen a lot of accolades, LVMH, etc. So What's your take on that? When you say an African designer has made it, what does that look like? And yeah, what does it mean for the African continent, the ecosystem on the African continent?
Sure. When you say an African designer has made it, what does that look like? I think it would mean different things for each designer. I think when an African designer has made, in my opinion, if an African designer has made it, it would be if they could carry. I mean, I think that Matkosa is doing really good.
Yeah.
I think that is a good example of what an African designer making it looks like. And I say this mainly for a couple of points. One, they are a conscious brand. They are very aware of the amount of work that they produce and the waste that they produce, and they try to curb that as much as they could. It's something that should bother more people, but I don't think it does. Just waste in the fashion industry is a major. I mean, I traveled last year to a recycling company in Portugal, not last year, 2 years ago, and I still can't everything that I saw there, just how much waste caused, just as the fashion industry. So I cannot just imagine other industries. So for me to have that mind and to have that as like a core principle of the business, for me is like such a great example of an African leader, creative leader. One, the other point is obviously, employment. If you can take people with you and employ and provide employment for as many people as you possibly can. For me, that is an example of an African designer who has made it. Making it on your own across the seas, and you are doing something on your own is just living a nice life. That's not an African designer making it. It's not. An African designer making it is a designer that makes a difference in the lives of other Africans.
Great. So that brings me to financing this whole business. You're going to a trade show.
Oh, yeah.
We have a Department of Trade and Industry. I mean, all of this.
Nobody's come to the party, girl. No one's come to the party.
Okay, I was hoping you'd say
just
something
before
different.
You ask me, let me tell you the answer. Let me tell you the answer before you ask me. No one's come to the party. Okay, we sent out the emails, and we also have a day-to-day business to run, so you can't be chasing.
Sure.
You send out what you can to who you can. The contacts are there. The channels are there. But if you're not getting word on the other side, you do it yourself. That's why you have to be very savvy with your money. You always have to save something for a rainy day. As a business, as an entrepreneur, you always have to have something for a rainy day, because opportunities can spring up on you, and you need to be able to do it. So some of these opportunities are funded. Obviously, that you are catered for, but it's sometimes like an 80-20 situation.
Sure.
So we will give you, you'll be able to trade. We'll cover those expenses. Accommodations covered, but you've got to fly yourself and get your collection there and get your insurances, and it can add up. If you're not ready for it, you won't be able to do it. So most of the time you're alone. You're doing this on your own. That's why you have to have, that's why financial literacy is so important. But sometimes just learning the hard way is illiteracy. is illiteracy enough. Just learning the hard way is good enough. And that is the school I've been at. When it comes to money, I've just learned the hard way. That's a very good school.
Right.
And then obviously you have to have, someone in finance that you speak to. You have to have someone in all areas of your business. I mean, I have a board of directors. I did not appoint them to they don't know that they're my board of directors, but they are, someone in finance.
I love that.
They don't know. They just don't. They don't know. But they've been my board of directors for years. I don't move. unless they say you can do it. I don't.
Right.
But they don't know this. No, I have a great support system when it comes to different areas of my business life, and it has helped me so much because I started as a baby designer, and along the way you meet people who you get introduced to people who change your life for that moment, and it is up to you to keep that relationship going. And then years down the later you find that you've created a little hub and a family and directors, people who've been showing you the way without having by just being a student when it comes to business. I don't have a business a background in business. I don't. Everything that I'm creating, it's intuition.
Sure.
Right. Just to start the brand was intuition. Just everything the decisions I've made have been based on intuition and support and advice and prayer and hard work and support, not only from support from just my workers,
Right.
my employees. So it's it takes a whole entire village. That saying, it doesn't only apply in the family setting. It applies when it comes to business on the African continent.
Yeah. No one makes it alone.
It really takes a village. It's taken a village. So where do I get the money? I save it. I try. I've got a small addiction. I've got a slight addiction.
Tell me.
I like to save money. To save money. It's my
your
thing.
Little squirrel.
I enjoy it. Yeah, it's the thing that I do. That's the thing that I do. Just because there was a time, the reason I went to school when I reached the ceiling.
Yeah.
I reached the ceiling and went straight to rock bottom. Can you see that in your head?
No, absolutely. I mean, I know how broke you can be after studies. I mean, I went for a midlife update. So
this is before.
Oh,
the reason I got exactly good. The reason I got up and I said, what am I going to do? And school seemed like the only way, and I didn't have the money to do it, but at least I had the will. Is because I had reached the ceiling and I went straight to rock bottom. So I have been at a place where I don't have any money to even just dream, to just do the things that I want to do, and to just, I've been broke. And since then I said, okay, this lesson is not only about all the other things, but it's a lesson about money, and I'm going to learn it. And I'm not going to I don't want to find myself in this position again because of who I am in the society. If I want to be the person who is employing and helping people and creating jobs, I've got to be responsible when it comes to money. I'm just like, I'm going to have to just grab these opportunities, when they come. So Paris, all these things, I do them out of the business, my own capacity.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of part 1 of this conversation with Palesa Mokubung. Thanks for listening, and keep an eye out for the second and final part. Be the first to find out when it drops by subscribing to the Shades and Layers newsletter on shadesandlayers.com, or follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening. I'm Kutlwanus Kosana Richie, and until next time, please do take good care.